yourself fucking sucks. Eminem hasn't been good since 1983. Slim Shady EP was the last good Eminem album.
Guys, listen. I know that everyone has different taste in music, but surely we can all agree that Fack is the greatest Eminem song ever written, right? Eminem is a famous Detroit rapper who rose to stardom with the release of his debut album Soul Intent. It was a commercial success and sold infinite copies, which gave Marshall an idea. He decided to follow up his mega hit Soul Intent with an album named after the amount of copies he sold. Infinite released in 1997, being another commercial success and selling a bajillion quazillion dollars. But Eminem was pissed, because that's less than infinite. So he decided to hit the gym and release a follow-up album called the Slim Shady LP, a direct sequel to Infinite, produced by indie producer Doctor Who. The album sucked and everyone hated it, and a vote was held to arrest Eminem on 3 counts of him being a big meanie, and 7 counts of him being a big weenie. The judge dismissed the case, and as a thank you, he released the Charles Mathers LP, which was okay. Then, the Eminem was approached by Steven Spielberg to create a TV adaptation of his albums called The Eminem Show. It was an animated series where Eminem was voiced by Chris Pratt. It was a commercial success, and people finally started liking Eminem again. Steven Spielberg greenlit a film adaptation of the series, calling it 8 Miles, and Eminem released an album to go along with it called Encore. It only had like 3 good songs, but everyone liked it anyway for some reason. Then in 2008, Eminem died and was replaced by his evil twin, Slim Shady, who created 7 of the worst rap albums of all time, without a single good song, and everyone wanted him to die. In 2009, critics sent blatantly racist attacks against Slimothy's foreign accent in his recovery album called Relapse, along with some obscene fetish shaming and homophobia. He followed it up with a recovery album to his recovery album called Recovery Album, where he decided to put on an American accent to appease his critics, but his disgusting, slightly deeper voice put off many. In retrospect, many have argued that his complex wordplay and deep-cut esoteric rap features like Rhiannon and Little Wawa was too much for casual listeners, alienating them, resulting in Recovery being Shady's least radio-friendly album. Then, like 10 years later, he released a sequel to the Marshall Mathers LP called The Sequel to the Marshall Mathers LP. This one was better than the first because it didn't feature Bizarre. Then, 3 years after the sequel to the Marshall Mathers LP, Eminem shocked the world by rising from the dead and created a new album, and everyone loved it. It was called Revival because Eminem had been revivaled from the dead via a blood sacrifice of Taylor Swift and Ja Rule. It had such classics like Wake by the Ocean, I Forgot, Duck Frump, Why I Dislike 45th President of the United States of America, Donald John America Trump, Heavy Duty Shitting Contest, Rose's Moving Castle, Pink Red Pink Cock Presents Need Me featuring Eminem, Claustrophobic, and Big Weenie 2, Why Trump is Gay and Also a Homosexual. Everyone liked Eminem again. However, news of his tragic passing would surface 3 months after Revival's debut, with him crashing his Benz into a Beastie Boys concert after a long night of sniffing Clag glue. To commemorate his passing, Slim Shady created a tribute album called Kamikaze, named after the way Eminem died, listening to Beastie Boys. Then some asshole prick called the Heavy Weapons Kelly made a song dissing Slim Shady, but Kelly too would tragically pass away due to choking on a bowl of cereal. Then Slim Shady decided to say "fuck it" and basically just decided to dick around for an album and slap an Alfred Hitchcock reference on the cover. I don't know if anyone listened to it, but he spoke really quickly on the album, and that pissed people off for some reason. And then more tragic news would strike as Slim Shady would be reported to be dead, and a posthumous album would be released in his honor. But not long after Try Not to Cry Challenge, the death of Slim Shady, brackets very sad, Mourners Edition, people realized that if you read the news report of Slim Shady's death backwards in the mirror 3 times, you can pretend like Slim Shady is still alive. And that's the music of Eminem, for those of you who don't know. Fack released on the Curtain Call Greatest Hits album back in 2006, and everyone just loosed it. Being the greatest song that Eminem had ever produced, it was naturally the first song on the tracklist. I will use this chapter to break down the lyrics of the song. So here Eminem is displaying his linguistic prowess, his utilization of the homophonic connection between the words fuck and fact plants in the listener's mind the idea that this is going to be a conceptual record surrounding a night of passionate lovemaking with a significant other. He also uses multi-sibyllic rhyme schemes throughout, on top of the double entendre of coming, both in the sense that he is about to ejaculate, but also in the sense that he himself is coming to you, the listener, as this is the first song off of his first of many greatest hits albums. This could could also be spun into a triple entendre if you consider that it could be a clever reference to Alfred Cummings, the treasurer of the USFA during 1923, as well as the manager of the Chicago Bricklayers team that reached the final of the US Open Cup 1 year later in 1924. This is backed up by the fact that the song depicts an erotic, sodomistic event in Marshall's life, linking into the idea that soccer is an extremely gay sport. A contortionist is somebody who bends their bodies, but can also be seen as somebody who bends the truth or misleads. So in a sense, Marshall is recounting an encounter he had with a woman who seeks to deceive him, perhaps a callback to his song Superman from the EMINEM'S show soundtrack, famous for its tackling of issues like females lying and woman's boobs. Given that this is a greatest hits album, this would make quite a lot of sense. Here, Mathers is tackling the subject of abortion, a prominent theme on his song River that charted back in 2001. He makes it clear that despite his use of contraceptives, there is still a risk of an unplanned pregnancy during intercourse, which according to the World Health Organization see an effectiveness of 98% with male partners using condoms, provided of course that said condoms follow the ISO standards and the WHO/UNFPA specifications. Eminem is famous for his tactful handling of political issues, and this line is a perfect example. Marshall expresses his desire to continue the intercourse unprotected. However, this takes on a double meaning when you consider Marshall's attitude towards guns. You see, on his 2004 track We As Americans from the Encore bonus disc, Marshall expresses his frustration that he had his right to bear arms taken from him after he pistol whipped and threatened a guy for kissing his girlfriend. However, in 2020, he would go on to release a song called Darkness that would roll back his pro-gun stance, with him taking, instead, a pro-anti-gun stance. This is representative of him changing his mind around his use of contraceptives. This is a line that tackles consent. Marshall is making sure to express that he is maintaining consent all throughout the intercourse, as anyone and everyone should. He uses the metaphor of ejaculating in the woman to represent his feelings toward the Iraq War, with the woman representing oil and his ejaculate representing the 7,000 soldiers who died during the US's occupation of Iraq and Afghanistan. When he repeats the chorus, he is inviting the listener to take a second chance to understand his lyrics. He wants to make it clear that the song is more than just a fun club banger, but he is in fact trying to say something more poignant. It's a commentary wearing the skin of a party song, much like Eminem's previous song, Hey Ya. Marshall stated in an interview that FAC is actually an acronym or facronym for Freddie Azbear's Keatsery Accumulator. Here, Marshall is predicting the 6th entry in the popular indie horror game franchise Five Nights at Boys. Here, Marshall is using incest to cleverly make reference to famous pop culture icon at the time, Christian Weston Chandler. It's very clever stuff. Here Marshall is giving his perspective on the Chris Chan taint incident. By referencing the woman's perceived shaving, he is actually referencing Chris Chan's attempt to perform a sex-altering surgery on himself, shaving being a euphemism for cutting your perineum with a box cutter and posting photos of it on the internet. He repeats the chorus again. He repeats the chorus again. This is the only part I am not 100% sure about. I think it's very much up to the interpretation of the listener, but despite my research, I couldn't find a concrete answer as to what a Slim Shady is. The closest match being a flavor of Slim Jims that utilized a haggis base for its salami. So perhaps here Marshall is comparing himself to haggis. Haggis is made of pig's blood, and in traditional Judaistic and Islamic culture, pigs are seen as unclean animals that are not to be eaten. However, in the Christian theology, it's believed that the establishment of Jesus' new covenant with earth this rule was done away with. Perhaps this is a meta-commentary on Eminem's rise to fame, being seen as too dirty and unclean to be shared publicly, being metaphorically crucified, and then returning with another album 3 days later. Marshall may be comparing himself to Jesus with this line. Some might even say that he's referring to himself as the god of rap, a rap messiah, if you will.
Okay, I'm done. I already came twice. You ain't gonna make me come. I'm all out of gas. Not so fast. Your finger just went in my ass. Ah, that hurts. Take it out now.
This is a continuation of the consent ideas present on earlier bars. Here, Marshall is touching on the often overlooked sexual abuse that many men receive at the hands of women. This is a subversive and very progressive stance for Marshall to take.
Oh, wait a minute. I'll put it back in. This don't mean I'm gay. I don't like men. I like boobs.
Here, Marshall Mader is expressing his enjoyment of this previously consent-free act, expressing fears that his enjoyment of the act may confuse the woman into thinking that he is in fact a homosexual, which he is.
I mean, I'm gay.
However, he hides this by reassuring the woman that he doesn't in fact like men, because he likes boobs. This is notable as male attraction to female breasts is a very Anglo-European idea. Women's breasts are often depicted in European art as a sign of beauty and nurturing, whereas in other cultures this is not the case. So essentially, Marshall is harkening back to his European roots and taking pride in his culture by expressing his enjoyment of breasts. Notably, he fails to provide details of his interest into women's bottoms. However, given Marshall's reference to traditional European/Christianic ideals, he is likely commenting on the strong opposition to sodomy in the Bible. EMINEM is clearly giving his answer to the age-old ass versus tits debate, first put forward by Austrian psychologist Sigmund Freud in 19.
I see that gerbil. Grab that too. Shove it on my butt. Let that little rascal nibble on my asshole. Yeah, right there, right there.
Here, Marshall is referring to the 2007 pornographic film Alvin and the Chipmunks, which stars Matthew Gray Gubler as the titular Simon Chipmunk. This is a film that Eminem made a cameo in. Eminem is expressing his joy that he is getting eaten alive by a small rodent. This represents Marshall's self-doubt and imposter syndrome, emotionally confessing to his audience that the feeling of harming himself, gerbil, is becoming more and more desirable. This self-destructive behavior is a clear allegory for his battle with drug addiction that resulted in this song. He then concludes the song by repeating the line, This is Marshall's way of telling the audience that he's struggling, and that they need to be patient with him while he works through a few things. It's really poignant stuff. So after analysing the lyrics a little more closely, using the context of where Marshall was at in his life, as well as using our understanding of both the history of rap as a genre, but also the world as a genre, it's clear to see that the real meaning behind fact is the gerbils we shoved up our assholes along the way. Happy Pride Month!